Hey, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon. I am Jacob Soboroff, and you are watching a very special hour of MS Now, live from the No Kings protest in downtown Los Angeles. Take a look at this. It is a live look from our drone above Gloria Molina Grand Park here in the heart of L.A., where people are starting to gather, and in about an hour, they will march through downtown Los Angeles as they have so many times before. This is the third nationwide No Kings protest in the last 8 months, and early estimates say it could be the biggest one yet. Americans are coming out in massive numbers to protest against President Trump's most unpopular policies. And Americans have even more to be angry about this time around. Since the last No Kings Day in October, President Trump has continued his immigration crackdown, with 2 American citizens, Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, dying at the hands of immigration officers in Minneapolis. The United States of America is now involved in a widely unpopular war with Iran. There is still lingering fallout over the handling of the Epstein files, and there are now renewed efforts by Republicans in the United States Congress to disenfranchise millions upon millions of voters. And today, right now, regular people, everyday Americans all around the United States are coming out to tell the government that they have had enough. Organizers expect millions of people to hit the streets in 3,300 protests, maybe even more than that, across the country. We are seeing this united act of defiance in every corner of our nation, from Washington, D.C. to Minneapolis to New York City. Look at this, to right here in Los Angeles, where it all started last year. And I have been reporting from here in L.A., even on June 6th, when this city spontaneously poured into the streets in massive numbers to protest ICE after federal agents used those military-style tactics during a series of immigration raids. And L.A. did what L.A. always does best. People came out to show support and love for their neighbors in a city powered and fueled by immigrants, to say not here, not right now, not in Los Angeles. And then just days later, on June 14th, we saw the first No Kings protest. It was extraordinary. I was right there witnessing what the mayor estimated was 20,000 people pour into the streets of Los Angeles. They were a part of about 5 million people overall, according to the ACLU, who came out nationwide for that initial day of action. And then in October, it got even bigger. 7 million people, 2 million additional across 2,500 events turned out, including a cast of colorful characters who I had the pleasure of talking to myself.
We're here to represent the loving, hardworking community of Los Angeles. We're here peacefully protesting, looking as ridiculous as we can, just so maybe we appeal to the president, because he is a ridiculous leader that is normalizing abuse of power, and we cannot stand and act like nothing is happening.
I have to say, interviewing a unicorn was definitely a first for me and quite memorable. But today could be a big first for a whole lot of people coming out for the first time on this No Kings Day to protest this president and his policies. You can hear him now in L.A. It is a message that we all know. There is and has always been strength in numbers. And to quote my next guest, there is courage in community. Here with me right now is Kelly Robinson, the president of the Human Rights Council. She will soon be taking the stage here in Los Angeles at the very beginning of this rally that will then lead to a march. Kelly, it's so good to see you. Thank you for being here.
It's so good to see you and have something to celebrate today, the power of the people showing up.
We're about an hour away from this thing getting started. Look at this. People are already here in incredible numbers. How are you guys doing today? What's it like for you to see this? What's your message going to be when you get up on the stage today before the march?
This is amazing. This is democracy. And we're here in Los Angeles, a place that has such a history of activism, from fighting forward in the AIDS crisis to coming together around love after Prop 8 passed, to showing up to stand up for our immigrant neighbors when ICE and the National Guard were patrolling our streets. That's the energy of the city. And the number of new people that are showing up is tremendous. This is a moment that people don't want to miss out on. They want to be a part of the story of America, the story of the chapter where we saved our democracy, and that's the energy you feel.
It's one thing, Kelly, to go from 5 million to 7 million to, who knows how many million show up today. But what does converting all of those people actually look like to you, aside from showing up at the ballot box in November?
This is a big deal. Courage and community is a real thing. You know, there's a lot of studies of authoritarianism, and they say that when more than 3% of the population is engaged in active resistance and protest, you can stop any of the negative forces that are against you. That's what you see showing up here. And the next step is to make sure that it doesn't stop. Democracy doesn't just happen in November. It happens when we show up for our neighbors. So we're encouraging folks to show up to vote, to make sure they're engaged in mutual aid work, to make sure that folks can survive day to day, and to do what we can to support folks that are running for office as well.
When you talk about the mutual aid work, I think instantly of what we saw, not just in COVID here, actually, with so many people coming out to help so many of their friends and their neighbors, but in particular here in Los Angeles during those ICE raids. We are the largest undocumented population in the country. As I said just a few minutes ago, this is a city that would not operate without immigrants and who are our neighbors. They are our friends, or they are our fellow parishioners, they are our classmates. There are many people who are in this crowd. Some of them even dress up in unicorn costumes and come out to protest just like this. When you draw a line from what we saw here in June of 2025 to today, and the way that this government has continued to back down, what does it say to you about the power of these protests?
It says that it's working, right? Like, immigrants are foundational to the story of this nation, and we're not going to give up on each other. And I also think about queer folks, right? Renee Good was a queer woman. Don Lemon, a black gay man, arrested for exercising his First Amendment rights. I'm also clear that the story of this nation is how LGBTQ plus people have shown up in every fight. And in this moment, we understand that these fights aren't disconnected. The same folks that are making sure that the gas prices stay high are the ones that are attacking trans kids. The same folks coming after our immigrant neighbors are trying to rip your books out of the classroom. This is a fight that we all have a stake in. And I think that what you see is people coming together across all kinds of lines of difference to say, enough. We demand a nation and democracy that's by and for the people. And what you see here, this is the power of the people, y'all.
She said this is the power of the people, you guys. The Human Rights Campaign has always been at the forefront of the struggle for equality, and in particular, transgender rights are under attack today in the United States of America. How important is this day? What would you like to see coming out of this day in the continued push for equality that HRC has been so much a leader in over all these decades?
It's critically important. Look, our trans community is under attack. We saw the Olympic Committee bar trans women from participating in competition this week, while also imposing rules that would actually regulate and put invasive procedures in front of every woman that was participating. We've seen Kansas rip away driver's licenses from people because they're trans. Our trans siblings kicked out of the military. Look, if they can take these actions against one community like the trans community, please believe that they could do it to any of us. This is, again, that moment where we have to understand that our fates are intertwined. And anytime we stand up for the trans community, we're standing up for all of our communities.
Kelly, it's so great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. We're very much looking forward to hearing you speak up on that stage on the steps of Los Angeles City Hall in just a minute. Kelly Robinson, again, president of HRC. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Weekend Primetime and our live coverage of the No Kings protests. You're looking at live pictures out of Los Angeles, where one of the major rallies is taking place right now, with thousands taking to the streets to protest President Trump's agenda. And moments ago, according to the New York Hands Off organizer, we learned that at least 350,000 people attended the rallies here in New York. We're going to bring in MS Now correspondent Jacob Soboroff in Los Angeles. Jacob, tell us, how's it going over there?
Antonia, I was watching you all day in New York. I was watching Maya in Chicago. I was watching Rosa in Austin and Laura in Minneapolis. I mean, all over the country, the scenes look exactly like they do in Los Angeles. This is the third time I've done this in LA. I did it in June, on June 14th, after the ICE raid started on June 6th. I did it October 18th here. And now here we are again, March 28th, an incredible day where we're waiting to see if the numbers will be as historic as they have been time after time here, and I continue to just meet guys. Come over here. I was just come here, come here, come here, come on, come here, come here. I'm watching these people from behind the camera. What's your name? Come over here. Stand right next to me.
I work for the federal government.
Oh well, then stand this way, or whatever. She gave up the info. You don't have to tell me your name. What are you doing out here? I love your sign that says, "This is the only throne Trump is fit for." On the other side, it says, "This Latina abuela veteran," right on, "will never bow to a king." You don't have to tell me your name, but tell me what it's like to be out here.
It's like being in a safe place. It's being with family.
Have you ever done this before?
Many times. And this sign is like falling apart because it's like the third time I brought it out. So
You're not really a grandma, are you?
It's evergreen. I am a grandma. I'm an abuela.
Dang, that is amazing. You are incredible. It's incredible to be out here with you. Thank you so much for talking to me.
Right,
nice to meet you. Sorry to pull you in there like that. Guys, let's go for a little bit of a walk. I want to show you what's happening here. This is Los Angeles City Hall, the iconic Los Angeles City Hall, where over the course of the last year, there have been protests that have gathered here time after time after time. And let's see how close we can get, because I want to show you what's happening up on the stage right now. The signs always tell the story. Democracy, I love you. Democracy, I love you. Tell me about your sign. Tell me about who you are.
Well, I love democracy. I don't love what's happening with this country right now. All our constitutional rights are being trampled on. Laws are totally being disregarded. The courts are being disregarded. We have three branches of government equal in power to check each other, and there's none of that right now, and that's so disgusting.
I hear that over and over again. It feels like authoritarianism. It feels like there are no checks and balances in this country. What's your name?
Eve.
Eve? Really nice to meet you. I'm Jacob.
Really nice to meet you.
Have a good time. Be safe out here today.
All right, thank you.
Guys, let's take another little walk. Let's see who else we can find over here. On the steps of City Hall, there have been, in my lifetime as a citizen of this great city, the City of Angels, the second largest city, the most populous county in America, countless protests. 1 million people came out 20 years ago for a march in support of comprehensive immigration reform. And over the years that I have been on the streets, both as a reporter and as a civilian, to see the power of Los Angeles. Remember, this is where it all started, you guys. Those raids kicked off in the Fashion District, just a couple of blocks away from here. Those Marines and those National Guard troops were stationed in between the ICE officials inside the building 1 block over, and all of those protesters who came out here to push back. Nobody has stopped over the course of the last year pushing back on this, not only the attempt to institute the largest mass deportation campaign in American history, but everything that the Trump administration is doing. You'll hear it time after time. Let's keep going just a little bit, because I know, guys, you got a show to do, but it's too important not to hear from people out on the streets. Is this your first protest?
I'm not trying to.
Hey, that's okay. Let's go right up to the front, guys. We see the SEIU, Service Employees International Union. David Huerta, one of the leaders of that movement, famously was taken to the ground in the early protests here, and they continue to show up. SEIU, can I say hi? Okay, you're SEIU? You guys come out. I mean, I have seen you at every protest time after time after time. What keeps bringing you out?
Well, we're trying to fight for a better life for our members. They take care of the neediest in our community, and we want to make sure they have a country they deserve. So that's why we're here. We'll
you taking a little breather on the floor?
A little bit, just for a second.
It's hot out there. What's your name?
Farah Abdullahi.
It's really nice to meet you. I'm Jacob. Thanks so much. Guys,
Jacob, what are you hearing?
This march hasn't even started.
Jacob, what are you hearing from participants about what's motivating them specifically today? Has it changed at all now that we are at war with Iran? Are you hearing much mentions of the war as a motivating factor?
I'm hearing about all of it, and I think that with the midterm elections approaching, people realize and understand. In our 4 o'clock hour, I talked to Ezra Levin live from Minneapolis, that it's not just enough. He said it, people out here are saying it, to come out and protest, even in record numbers, even in the biggest numbers that we have ever seen. There has to be a mobilization in the eyes of the protesters, in the eyes of the organizers, to move from theory to practice, as it were, to get people out and to actually show up, not just at the polls on election day, but to make this administration understand that this will not stand. And I think that in L.A., the immigration raids were the catalyst to get people out originally. But as time went on, whether it was the tariffs here in L.A., which workers felt on an extraordinary level, you have an Iranian community here in Los Angeles that has both spoken out for and against, depending on who they are and where they come from. But I think everything is on the table for people out here. They are certainly united in one thing. They don't want Donald Trump to be the president of the United States. They do not want the Republicans to control Congress, and they want to take back power in Washington, D.C. and all throughout the country.
Jacob, you mentioned earlier that these protests, or at least the public activity, began in L.A. in response to some deployment of troops to L.A., or to National Guard members to L.A., I believe. This week, Trump has floated the idea of sending federalized troops to L.A. to deal with crime, as he argues needs to be done. Have you spoken to protesters about how they would react to that?
it's a tale as old as time that Trump says he's going to bring people out into the streets, federal law enforcement, to take control of cities. It was what he said at the beginning of the ICE raids here in L.A., that he needed to send in those federal troops, that he needed to send in the Marines. I will never forget standing with a Marine named Ross on the steps of the federal building a block away, who told me, looking at his fellow Marine brothers and sisters standing there in their combat-type attire, because Donald Trump had said that this was a lawless, unruly city, made his blood boil. And I'm paraphrasing, but that was the sentiment. And let me tell you something. This is a peaceful protest, period, full stop. In October, it was a peaceful protest, period, full stop. Same thing in June. Donald Trump can say whatever he wants about what's happening on the streets of L.A., but in terms of a big city, relative to the crime rate here, this is a safe city. Are there pockets where there's unrest? Are there pockets where protests turn violent at times? Yeah, sure thing. They do here and all across the country. But that's why local leaders say, and people who are protesters say, even if they've had adversarial relationships with law enforcement on the ground here. And look, I can tell you the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department approached on us in those June protests here in an aggressive manner. The idea of federal law enforcement coming in and doing what they did in MacArthur Park over the summer and basically staging a show of force with Greg Bavino walking around in a military-style costume is not what people in Los Angeles want, not what local leaders say they need, and not what local law enforcement says they need either.
Jacob Soboroff, thank you so much. We'll be checking in with you later in the show.
And speaking with the mayor of Chicago is MS Now reporter Maya Eaglin. She's in downtown there. We have a protest, certainly we can hear behind you. It's kicking off at this hour. So as you get the mayor ready to speak to him, talk about what's driving the folks to come to Chicago streets and protest today.
Yeah, Alex, take a look at this crowd. There are a ton of people behind me. We're backstage right now. I've been hearing from folks that they're angry, they're frustrated. They've been watching everything happen on their TV screens and on their phones. But I think someone who's heard a lot about this is Mayor Brandon Johnson. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Tell me why you wanted to come out and what's your message for the community here?
Well, it's pretty straightforward. We have to end the assaults against working people. We have to end the assaults against immigrants and end these endless wars. Affordability is becoming increasingly a bigger challenge for people across this country at a time in which the ultra-rich have received the greatest tax breaks in the history of America. This is really about sending a message to those ultra-rich individuals and, of course, the Trump administration that's protecting them, that working people are going to stand united to make sure that our values are protected.
There's been so much pain since we've all been watching what's unfolding at the Broadview Center. For the community members that have told me today, they feel scared to go outside. They feel attacked. What's your message to them?
Well, that's exactly what the Trump administration wants. We're stronger when we stand together. That's why I've used executive orders. I've used litigation. We've used legislation, and we're using organizing on the ground to protect working people. Last week, I was out in Little Village. This week, I was in Chinatown supporting our small businesses, encouraging more and more people to participate. The Trump administration has dismantled our economy. It's becoming harder for working people to exist because of his policies. But today, you can see that our movement is getting larger, we're stronger, and our resolve is still steady.
Tell me what your message is to folks who watch this on TV and they say, well, it's great that people are gathering, but what change comes after that? What would you tell them?
We have to get active. First of all, we have to make sure that we're participating in our democratic process. We've already seen elections shift around this country, so things are happening. We have signed multiple executive orders to force ICE out of the city of Chicago. Every single lawsuit that we have filed against the administration, we have prevailed. So the people united have demonstrated that our power is stronger and that we will prevail. And so we have to remain committed. Those that came before us fought the same type of system that is trying to dominate us today. I'm so glad that they didn't give up on us. That's why we have civil rights. That's why we have the rights for women. That's why we have rights for immigrants. Folks are trying hard to roll back those rights. We have to ensure that we protect them and then, of course, grow them.
And what are you hearing from folks specifically in Chicago? What are they most frustrated about right now? Affordability is on everyone's mind.
That's exactly right. It's affordability. That's why I put forth a $1.25 billion bond to build more affordable homes, to support our small businesses. It's the largest investment in the history of Chicago. But we're also investing in our education system. I released $500 million into our public schools. We've expanded mental and behavioral health care services. We've actually hired young people for summer jobs, the greatest investment we've seen for youth employment. What people are calling for in Chicago is safe and affordable communities. And because of those investments, we had the fewest amount of homicides in 60 years. So we're driving violence down. We're expanding mental and behavioral health care. We're making sure that our workers are supported. That's how we're becoming the safest, most affordable big city in America. That's what's going on in Chicago.
So many people watch this on TV and think it's unpatriotic to stand against the president. What's your thoughts on patriotism and what it means for these folks to come out?
Well, that's not the way our history has been defined. In fact, as a former public school teacher right here in Chicago, every single major transformational moment that our country has ever experienced is because we stood up to the government. And that's why the Trump administration is trying so hard to suppress votes, to create intimidation and fear. But we're not afraid here in Chicago. It was Dr. King who came here 60 years ago, and he said that if we do it right in Chicago, we can do it anywhere in the world. So we're doing it right here in Chicago. So look out, world.
Mayor Johnson, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Alex, I'm going to toss it back to you. Mayor Johnson's about to head over on stage. We'll be talking to folks all day long, and we'll keep you posted.
Americans have turned out all over the country in over 3,000 locations. In my capacity as president of the National Action Network, I participated in No Kings here in New York with my friend, I think one of the extraordinary actors of all time, Oscar winner, and an activist, Robert De Niro, who spoke alongside with me and others at a press conference kicking off the event in New York today. And he's been kind enough to join me on set, actor and director Robert De Niro. Robert, this is the third No Kings rally that's been organized since Trump's second term. Each protest in the past breaking turnout in record numbers. You out there today, here in New York, on the front lines. What was it like today, and how did it compare to the last two protests?
Well, I wasn't at the last two, but I was aware of them, watching them and so on, and they were impressive, but I knew that they had to be much larger. The people have to really come out, and so far that's been happening. They have to come out as much as they can, because there's whatever this guy is going to try, things are going to happen that we don't know yet about. He'll try anything. It's just what it is, who he is. So we have to be prepared to go with whatever comes our way. So I was happy that it's this strong, and I hope it's even stronger. I don't even like to use the word hope. It will be stronger until, because it is, like you said, 7 months away. In terms of a lot can happen.
Yeah. Now, you've always been politically active, using your stature in pop culture and Hollywood to amplify issues that are important to you. We've worked together extensively in past for civil rights fights, along with National Action Network, and awarding you. But can you speak why you've been so involved, especially now, rejecting the notion that celebrities should simply just shut up and stick to their arts? What has motivated you not to do that?
I don't have a voice. I can't say anything. And if my voice can make a difference with people and influence people, and because I know it's going to be for the right reason, then why shouldn't I say something? I mean, when you like that, what's the name from Fox? I said to LeBron James or somebody, one of the basketball players, to shut up and dribble or something. It was so insulting. You're damn right I'm going to say something, and I have the right to say something. And other people should say something, because it does make a difference. If I see somebody who I like or respect, or even I'm not sure about, if they speak up, I respect them, especially if they're speaking up for the right things, for the right reasons. And it does make a difference. And I was talking about Jason Crow, who I saw when they did that thing with he and Mark Kelly and so on. And he said, courage is infectious. And I thought that's a good thing. And this guy has seen, he's been in three tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, the way I understand it. And it's true, because it can work the other way if everybody's negative and they feel defeated, deflated. At the same time, if you stand up and do what you know you should do, it works the other way. People can feel courageous, feel good, know they're doing the right thing. There's a threat there, there's a chance, but you have to take that chance, because how could you live with yourself if you know that this country is going to go down? And that's where we are now.
Now, President Trump continues to face increasing criticism over the war with Iran, rising costs of gas, and how his administration has executed his mass deportation agenda, which killed 2 Americans earlier this year. You've always been pretty outspoken against Trump, but what have been your thoughts on what's been going on politically as of late, this last few things that we've seen from him?
I don't know if this is it, but this guy, anything is possible. I think the Epstein thing, to me, one part of me says this could be wag the dog on steroids, just trying to deflect, go over here, do this, so that doesn't come his way, because the way it looks, it's going to come his way.
Now, today's No Kings protest drew out large crowds across the country, even internationally. What would you like people to take away from this to continue harnessing this energy and resistance?
Well, as I say, more people, everybody. I was inspired by it, seeing all the activity. Everybody, it's just getting bigger and bigger, as it should, because this country is our democracy is at stake. Period. And this fool is taking it with the fools around him. It's like a surreal dream. It's crazy. And this is what we have to do. This is where we have to go, more and more and more and more. We cannot let up until the midterms are resolved, and resolved for the right reasons. We cannot let up with this guy. He will try anything. If I know anything, I know that this guy will try anything, because he's crazy. He's not well. He's a damaged person. Period. We got to stand up, and it's great seeing this. I even feel good now, and I'm so worried and wary about saying, well, I'm hoping. No, I am feeling good now, and I don't want to say the word hope again, but that things will get even better and stronger. It's the only way we're going to get out of this.
Let me ask you this. I know we're out of time, and I said that was my last question, but have you, since you've been so vocal and so active in your career, you won every award you could win, you don't have to, have you been told by other people in entertainment you should cool out, Robert, you shouldn't say things? And how do you respond to that?
Well, some people say, people are worried about this, me or this or that or this. They just feel it's him. It's not. And I was reading something, some actor said, actors should act. No, I'm sorry. My country is at stake. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. Why should I? Why should I not say anything? Especially when I know I'm right. Period.
The one and only Robert De Niro, the legend himself. Thank you for being with us.
I'd like my grandchildren to be able to see that their grandmother stood up for something a long time ago. Those are important words for those of you wondering how to plan your day. Those words were spoken by a woman named Claudette Colvin. Claudette passed away on January 13th of this year, having left the world much as she lived her life, quietly, humbly, and without fanfare. But in 1955, Claudette Colvin stood up, or rather, she remained seated, in a choice that would alter the course of American history. At the time, she was a young black girl from a working-class family, and as class, as much as her race, plays a role in why people don't know her story. But neither her social status nor her race diminished her courage, her impact, or her legacy. American democracy is today stronger because she chose to act, or in the words of the historian Timothy Snyder, she chose to not obey an unjust system. 9 months before Rosa Parks famously refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on a Montgomery, Alabama municipal bus, 15-year-old Claudette Colvin was returning home from school one March afternoon and boarded a Montgomery city bus. Like any other day, she sat in the neutral zone, the middle section from where, as the bus filled up, the driver could order black passengers to move to the back. But unlike any other day, Claudette made a choice that March 2nd. She simply would not give up her seat. At the intersection of Bibb and Commerce Streets in Montgomery, predictably, the bus started to fill up with white people, and the driver, as he would do every day, instructed several black passengers, including Claudette Colvin, to give up their seats. All of them but one complied. Claudette Colvin stayed seated, and seated she would remain. 2 police officers were called in. Nevertheless, she persisted in her personal and, at the time, lonely protest. The teenager, Colvin, was arrested, handcuffed, and forcibly removed from the bus. But her story doesn't end there. Claudette Colvin went on to challenge segregation itself, becoming a key plaintiff in Browder v. Gale, the landmark case that ultimately struck down Montgomery's bus segregation laws, while Rosa Parks' case, which had successfully kicked off the historic Montgomery bus boycott, was still languishing in state court. Which is to say, every piece of resistance to segregation was important. Every piece was crucial. The figures who became famous, fixtures of history, as well as those whose work and whose names are written below the fold. Claudette Colvin has shown us something that we all know deep inside, something we know this very history-making morning. She demonstrated the power of one. Our national story is forged by countless moments like that, decisive action in which a single choice becomes one domino among many, and over time, bending the arc of this country's history towards something more just, more inclusive, and more equal. American democracy is less sustained by grand gestures, headlines, or showy sound bites than by ordinary people acting in quiet, decisive moments, standing up for justice, or in Claudette Colvin's case, remaining seated. These individual choices, separated by time and generations, do more than challenge a single moment in time, because together they alter the course of history. They build a stronger and a more resilient democracy. Let's go back even farther to the Boston Tea Party, our nation's first great act of rebellion. On December 16, 1773, a group of ordinary American colonists made a choice. On that night in Boston Harbor, they boarded British ships and hurled chests of tea overboard to protest taxation without representation. They were merchants, laborers, craftsmen, ordinary people. Yet their actions sparked a movement larger than any one of them, a movement that would give birth to a nation. More than that, it gave rise to a powerful ethos at the heart of this nation's identity, one that each generation of Americans seems to rediscover in its own time. That is, that in America, true power rests in the hands of the people. America is not defined simply by its geography, by points on a map. This country endures the same way it began, through ordinary people choosing to fight for something that is bigger than themselves. The Declaration of Independence owes its very existence to that ethos. All men are created equal. That seminal phrase appears in the first sentence of the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, forming part of the foundational statement that government derives its power from the consent of the governed and that basic human rights are universal. The Declaration was signed in Philadelphia in 1776, a moment in history that would formally unshackle a nation from its oppressors and set the stage for what would become a global beacon of democracy. Let's be very clear for a moment. Neither the nation nor its founders would live up to that credo for many decades to come. But the idea of universal human rights and government with the consent of the people was baked in from the beginning. 272 miles from that historic signing and decades later, in 1848, that same spirit of resistance gave rise to America's first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls, New York. On July 20th of that year, a group of women adopted what they called a second Declaration of Independence, formally launching the U.S. women's civil rights movement. Known as the Declaration of Sentiments, it was largely authored by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, a pioneering suffragist and intellectual force behind the movement. That document drew explicitly on the language and ideals of 1776 to demand women's equality and full participation in society and politics. Like the original Declaration of Independence, it began with a list of grievances, enumerating the repeated injuries and usurpations on the part of man toward woman, including legal restrictions on married women, denial of political rights, the structural inequalities that limit women's opportunities. The document boldly declared, quote, "He has made her, if married in the eyes of the law, civilly dead. He has taken from her all rights in property, even the wages she earns. If the covenant of marriage In the covenant of marriage, she is compelled to promise obedience to her husband, he becoming, to all intents and purposes, her master, the law giving him power to deprive her of her liberty and to administer chastisement, end quote. Stanton would not live to see women secure the right to vote, but the movement she helped launch carried that cause across generations, driven in part by her clear-eyed understanding that lasting change often demands a lifetime of work, and sometimes without the promise of witnessing its final victory. You may plant the seed of a tree today whose fruit you may not enjoy, but someone, maybe your grandchildren, will. As Stanton reminds us from beyond the grave, the history of the past is but one long struggle upward to equality. It also bears noting that even when women's suffrage was realized with the ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920, more than 70 years after Seneca Falls, its promise was not equally realized. While it enfranchised white women, it would be another 45 years before black Americans secured the universal right to vote in practice with the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. Even when the fight seems like it's over, it's never really over. And it was another 25 years after that another group would quite literally make the climb for equal rights in what became known as the Capitol Crawl. On March 12, 1990, over 1,000 disability rights activists marched from the White House to the U.S. Capitol to demand passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA. Watch this. To illustrate just how many obstacles people with disabilities encounter daily, more than 60 of those activists left their wheelchairs and painstakingly crawled up the 83 stone steps of the United States Capitol. One of them was Jennifer Keelan Chaffins, an 8-year-old girl. Her first encounter with discrimination came at the age of 6, when she and other disabled activists were denied service at a restaurant and told, quote, "People don't want to watch you eat," end quote. People don't want to watch you eat. By the age of 6, she had already participated in her first protest. By the age of 7, she was arrested during a peaceful protest. By the time the Capitol Crawl came around, Jennifer was already a seasoned activist at the ripe old age of 8. Some organizers initially worried that it might not be a good idea to allow a child to climb the 83 steps. Jennifer pushed back, quote, "If somebody my age didn't do it, then nobody from my generation would be represented." One organizer looked at her and said, "You need to do what's in your heart." And so Jennifer did what was in her heart. She joined dozens of activists, leaving their wheelchairs behind and pulling themselves up those marble steps one by one. And boy, was she determined to reach the top. In their pockets, they carried with them copies of the Declaration of Independence. And when they made it to the top, they delivered those copies to members of Congress. There's a reason why I'm telling you this story, because a few months after that, President George H.W. Bush signed the ADA into law, marking the passage of the world's first comprehensive civil rights law protecting the rights of people with disabilities. And because of that law, public spaces, services, and buildings today are required to be accessible to all Americans. Looking back as an adult, Jennifer reflected, quote, "The further up the steps I went, the more I felt empowered. I felt like I had all of the kids behind me who couldn't be there. I felt that it was important, not just to represent myself, but to represent them and their voices." Today, on No King's Day, another historic protest unfolds right now. Millions across this country will reclaim their agency, and they will march to defend their democracy from authoritarianism. America is what it is because an 8-year-old girl from Michigan could look at the adults around her, assert her right to protest, and pull herself up 83 marble steps. America is what it is because a 15-year-old schoolgirl from Alabama could challenge an entire system in a single defiant act of sitting. America is what it is because ordinary Americans throughout history have stepped forward in the name of something greater than themselves, often without knowing how far the ripples of their actions would reach. These countless small acts of courage taken together nourish and sustain our democracy. Today, history knocks on all of our doors, and organizers expect that at least 10 million of us will answer. 10 million of us will carry with us the sacrifices and legacies of our ancestors in this country and others. 10 million of us will carry the promise of a more perfect nation forward. And in doing so, 10 million of us will join the illustrious line of Americans past and present who have always kept the promise of this nation alive. History will knock on your door any minute now. Will you answer?
We have reporters and analysts in place nationwide covering all of these new and developing storylines. Let's go to MS Now's Laura Hafley from St. Paul, Minnesota, where the crowds are preparing to march to the state capitol. Laura, welcome. And we know organizers and the police both expect a massive turnout there. What are you seeing and hearing from the protesters right now?
Yeah, Alex, that's right. What we're expecting from No Kings, what they have told us is anywhere between 80,000 to 150,000 people here in St. Paul. We're at just one of the marches that will start this morning or this afternoon even, heading to the Capitol grounds where there will eventually be a rally. We're in a sculpture park in St. Paul, and look at all of these signs. You see one of these sculptures with a banner, No Kings, plastered across it. People here of all ages. We know that there's a gathering happening over my shoulder here, a big crowd huddled in a circle. They're chanting, they're singing. And again, this is just one of 3 marches, all going to converge on the Capitol. So this gives you just a little bit of an idea of how many people we're going to see. I've spoken to people here in St. Paul about what this protest means, being the flagship protest, obviously because of what has transpired here over the last few months. They had a lot of really powerful things to say about themselves and their neighbors. Take a listen.
Showing our strength against the Trump regime, and that we're willing to get out here in any kind of weather to protest.
I think it's because of the resistance that we showed over the past winter and how we stood up nonviolently to a violent regime.
It does my soul really good to see all the other people that feel the same way and are here to be together and show the administration that we are together. My husband and I came from Indianapolis because we had seen all the protests in Minneapolis and how much it meant to all of our friends and neighbors and immigrants, and we wanted to be part of it.
We know once the rally begins on Capitol grounds in St. Paul, there are several speakers expected, including Governor Walz, Representative Ilhan Omar. There's performances, including by Bruce Springsteen, who will be performing Streets of Minneapolis, a song he wrote after, of course, writing Streets of Philadelphia. So this crowd has a lot to look forward to. And Alex, what I'm expecting to see today is a group of neighbors that really is going to experience a lot of catharsis. There's been a very frustrating few months for this group. And of course, I think they're hoping today brings the community together and lends itself well to a positive path forward. Alex.
Yeah. And Laura, let me just double check where these performances, and again, you have so many notable figures. You mentioned lawmakers, leadership that way. But yeah, Bruce Springsteen, Jane Fonda, Joan Baez, people that have been activists like all their lives, and that's partly what they are known for. Is it the kind of thing that will be kicking off this march? Will they be marching with the protesters behind you, or will they all converge on the state capitol?
Yeah, Alex, this is a really organized day today because what No Kings has been working on leading up to this moment. So there are 3 different marches happening around St. Paul. Each of those marches about a half a mile away from the Capitol grounds. Once everybody reaches the Capitol, there's a big stage set up where those speakers will talk to the crowd and those performances will take place. So the fact of the matter is this has to be really organized because of the sheer amount of people they're expecting. There's a large police presence, plenty of security. So again, for both the protesters and the people who are going to be up on stage just a short while from now. Alex.
Okay. We'll be checking back in with you throughout the day, my friend. Thank you, Laura Hafley. MS Now reporter Jake Traylor is joining us from West Palm Beach, Florida, right near Mar-a-Lago, where, of course, President Trump is spending his weekend. Jake, welcome to you. And organizers expect, what, about 10,000 people there today? What have you seen so far?
Yeah, Alex, that's right. Look, as you've already seen, there are millions of people protesting in some of the biggest cities in the country today, New York, LA, Chicago. Every single person that protests here, though, carries a bit more different weight because we are a couple things. One, we're a couple miles away from where Donald Trump is golfing right now. We're also a couple miles away from his Mar-a-Lago residence where he is staying this weekend. And the folks here have noted how significant that feels. So we spoke with a couple of different White House officials earlier today to get their sentiment about what's happening inside Mar-a-Lago as we see millions of people protest across the street. And as we talk about it, we'll kind of walk through and see some of those folks. The White House officials I spoke to told me that ultimately they're not concerned about the protesters. They're not concerned about what's happening here today. One White House official told me that actually it's only the reporters who care about what's happening here. But that is an extreme juxtaposition to the already thousands of people that we've seen protesting down the road from Mar-a-Lago, because they say things to me like, we've seen how protests can change the way that policy happens. We've seen that happen in Minneapolis. I spoke with one individual who said, I actually don't care if Donald Trump himself watches the protests or not today. I know that this is going to have a significant impact on the people around Donald Trump that help make change happen. Take a listen to that conversation.
What is the message you hope that Trump or some of his folks around him hear from what is happening today in these protests?
Well, you're right to some of the folks around him because he doesn't get any messages. They keep things from him, I believe. So he's not going to see pictures of these crowds, but his sycophants will be seeing them, and some of them are in Congress, and hopefully they're starting to shake a little bit in their boots.
Now, Alex, you may be seeing that around me, the crowd is, Alex, right now, the crowd is beginning to disperse right now. That is because there were definitely thousands of individuals here gathered earlier today, peacefully protesting, telling us how much they want their voice to be heard to make it all the way to Mar-a-Lago. But they're actually not stopping here. They're taking like a brief break. Then they are gathering at a different location, and they're actually going to safely and peacefully and legally, I'll add, march to the Mar-a-Lago residents outside of that area. They say they want their voices to be heard all the way to the doorstep of Donald Trump's, where he will be this evening. No public events planned. We expect him to be home at Mar-a-Lago, saying that he's not watching, but from the folks that I'm talking to, very likely hearing the loud voices that are protesting across the country today. Alex?
I was going to say he might be hearing the voices of those protesting outside of Mar-a-Lago as well. Okay, Jake Traylor, we'll be checking in with you again periodically. Thank you. Let's head to MS Now national reporter Rosa Flores in Austin, Texas. So, Rosa, what are you seeing there in the Lone Star State?
Alex, welcome to No Kings in Austin, Texas. I want to show you around. Look, we even have Bubbles, the magic of the Lone Star State. Take a look at all of the tents out here. There are more than 80 organizations that are on the grounds. The protesters are still making their way here. But here's the thing about this particular protest, why you see all these tents. Because the protest and the movement doesn't start and end today with No Kings. This is about, and this is according to the organizers, this is about getting more people involved civically so that they can do more tomorrow, so that they can vote in November. I've talked to a lot of the protesters that have been here already. There's a few of them. A lot of them are organizers. And they say that there are just so many things that are wrong with our country right now. They listed many of them. ICE in communities and how they're treating people in communities, the Supreme Court, the war in Iran, gas prices, you name it. Some of them became emotional. Take a listen.
It's important that other people know that we're all together, we're all human beings, and oh my gosh, you know, what's happening in the world is horrible. And it's all because of one guy who has a stupid ego and thinks he's above everyone else. And I don't think that's cool.
I can feel your emotion. Tell me about
it is.
that.
I mean, it's just, I just, you know, I'm sitting at home and I'm going, I got to do something. I got to do something, you know. So, you know, I got some friends that are going to be here later, you know, but it doesn't just, it hurts your heart because I love people and I don't want to see other people hurt.
Alex, I want to introduce you to the Raging Grannies from Austin. They're going to be performing for us. And so, Grannies, take it away.
We are resistance grannies. They run off their fannies. We may feel scared or the disappear, but we must fight to make it right. Take a page from labor history. Winning is no mystery. When all of us are on the bus, tyrants have no
because the organizers told me that they are going to have an ice sculpture out here. We don't see it yet. That is going to be melting during No Kings. Do you have any idea as to what that ice sculpture will be, Alex?
Let's see. Donald Trump?
This is what we call a tease in TV. Hopefully, I will be able to show it to you when I see you next.
All right. We are going to stay tuned for that. Thank you for that deep tease. Appreciate it. Rosa Flores and, of course, those Austin Raging Grannies. They're great.
Bring in Jared McCallop. He is an auto technician from the small town of Zachary, Louisiana. He is participating in his first No Kings protest today in Baton Rouge. Jared, thank you so much for joining us. The thing that is so interesting to all of us, I think, is, one, it's your first time. You're also going to be in Baton Rouge, not New York, not D.C. What brought you specifically to this moment to go out and go to your first protest?
Well, you know, this is a huge protest, the No Kings. Millions of people will be there. That in itself is something that I find very inspiring and engaging, you know, and standing and, you know, finding something that I believe in and standing with Minnesota on the stuff that happened there and everything is, you know, what's driving me to want to get out there and have my voice heard.
Prior to what happened in Minnesota, if you had the opportunity to participate in a protest like this, would you have gone out and showed up?
Yes, most definitely. Like I said, for me personally, these kinds of things are very enjoyable. I find a lot of information and knowledge through going to these events. And spreading the word and stuff like that is something that I also enjoy doing, and striking and having these conversations with these people and stuff. It's very enjoyable to me.
Why do you protest?
Because I would like for everyone else to believe that, you know, there are a lot of people who think the same way that I do or that we do, and they're just too afraid, for whatever their reasoning may be, to come out to these protests and know that there's nothing to fear from being out here or anything like that. It's not what the mainstream media portrays, you know. And I would like to consider myself as being a voice for those people that, you know, feel that way.
Louisiana, not exactly a blue state, pretty ruby red. What is it like to have to find the courage to protest in a ruby red state against Donald Trump?
You know, for me, it was a little nerve-wracking at first, but after actually getting out there and putting boots to the ground, as you would say, it's a lot more positive feedback and positive reactions have come out of it than negative ones from you know, the few that I have been to. So it's very I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say it's very inspiring to be a part of.
I'm just wondering what your biggest concerns about what the Trump administration is doing are.
For me personally, I think, you know, the war profiteering, the rising gas prices and grocery prices, and the wanting us to do the same amount of work, if not more, but no increase in the wages to compensate for this rising cost of everyday living and things that we need to have in order to do that.
Jared McCallop, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and good luck out there. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Y'all, I love when our fabulous booking team finds real people who are not politicians, they're not strategists, they're not even organizers of moments like this, because it is a reminder that like, this is his first No Kings protest. It sounded like he had found himself at other protests before. But the need for people to kind of get shaken a little bit at times, and him talking about like representing people that are too scared to go out.
Yeah.
How good Jared? Big fan of Jared.
Yeah. It's also to see what people are concerned about, because, a lot of times you'll talk to electeds or you'll talk to people and you'll be like, but what do people really worry about? And here we hear him. He is a mechanic, right?
He said the war profiteering.
War profiteering and inflation.
Yeah.
Which are two things we know are like big issues, the war and the inflation. So.
Yeah. Our bookers are also excellent reporters and had been in touch with organizers, and that's how they were able to find Jared. But my next booking mission that I want us to embark on, inspired in part by The Daily this week, was getting someone who was a gas station attendant on the show. To see how they're handling the spike in prices.
Was an amazing episode of The Daily talking about making gas more expensive.
It's important for those of us that have shows. It's important for us to remind the people at home that are watching that it's not just the politics or the policies, they're the people that make up and are impacted by all of those things. But
it is. It's really helpful to see that direct pipeline reflected in the mainstream media.
You put it.
I believe we have Leah Greenberg, co-founder and director of Indivisible. Leah, you've got to feel well rewarded today, seeing the turnout across this country. Your organization helped spearhead all of these nationwide protests. What is the message you want to send to the Trump administration? And to what extent, Leah, is today an anti-war protest against Trump attacking Iran without congressional approval to take this country to war?
Well, I think we are absolutely seeing a massive groundswell of outrage at this illegal, catastrophic war, at billions of dollars going for bombs abroad when people are going hungry and people are going without health care at home. And I think that is absolutely one of the things that is fueling this protest. And also, what we are seeing across the country, in red areas, in urban and suburban and rural areas collectively, is that people are fed up with all of this. They are fed up with imperious, unaccountable governance that doesn't take into account their needs. They are fed up with masked police, masked secret police attacking their neighbors. They're fed up with war. They want action, and they want action not only from the Trump administration, but from their Democratic elected officials. They want to see everyone who's got an ounce of power in this country throw in to stop this.
So Time reports, Leah, that today's No Kings protest may draw the biggest and most diverse anti-Trump crowds ever. In what ways are today's demonstrations more diverse than the first two protests? I mean, where are you seeing the biggest growth? Is it within urban communities, suburban communities, and what do you think's behind it?
Well, what I can tell you right now is that we're seeing growth across pretty much all fronts. We've had an extraordinary amount of labor organizing and folks throwing in. We've seen really powerful growth across the civil rights community, across the faith community. We're seeing veterans throw in a big way in response to the war. And we're also seeing a surprising surge in rural and suburban areas in particular. This is the first time when we're having the majority of these protests. They are outside of city centers. They are suburban, they are rural, and they reflect the fact that discontent with Donald Trump and this agenda of chaos and cruelty and corruption is stretching everywhere.
Yeah, your Indivisible co-founder, Ezra Levin, promised we are going to be everywhere, and he was not exaggerating. You have incredible numbers, 121 events in Michigan. There are only 83 counties. So, I mean, they're beating the numbers of counties in states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Talk about the high-profile speakers, the activists, the politicians. You've got the boss, Bruce Springsteen, performing his anti-ICE single Streets of Minneapolis. Has this exceeded your expectations, what you're seeing today?
Well, I think what we're seeing is that there are artists who are just as appalled as regular people are. And so what Bruce Springsteen is here in Minneapolis to help tell the story and bring the story of Minneapolis to the rest of the country. Because fundamentally what we saw in Minnesota over the last several months is the power of organized regular people who refuse to comply with fascism. And, what we are seeing is that when people respond in that way, when you stand up in that way, other people answer that call. Other people answer the call of the courage and the sacrifice, and they throw in too.
Well, you've certainly answered the call, and we're grateful for it, Leah Greenberg, you and the folks at Indivisible. I know you've got a lot to get to with today. You've got so many people there behind you, and thank you for your time with us. We appreciate it.